Welcome to Something Positive for Positive People. I'm Courtney Brain. Something Positive for Positive People is a podcast tailored to people who are living with or affected by sexually transmitted infections. Given that it is STI Awareness Month, STD Awareness Month, I wanted to get in contact with as many health organizations or sex health related organizations as I could in order to help with them getting their messaging out there to the public and help the public be more informed about where they can find more resources for sexual health. This episode is with Healthy is Hot STL. It's a St. Louis based organization that does what, ladies? Well, first off, let me introduce you. Today I'm here with Mickey and Sabrina. We'll start with Mickey. Mickey, go on and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mickey. I'm currently the co-president of Policy and Advocacy for Healthy is Hot. Um, and Healthy is Hot is a reproductive justice organization that was founded on SLU's campus. And we are here to serve the SLU students, but also the Midtown community. So thank you for having us on so we can start to serve the Midtown community. And Healthy is Hot was founded at the beginning of this scholastic year. That was our pilot semester. It was founded by Callie and Amanda, who saw a reproductive justice desert on SLU's campus and thought that they could help. And that's me, Sabrina.
Yeah, my name is Sabrina, and I am the co-president of Access and Education. And so what we are really trying to do on our campus is destigmatize conversations about sex and healthy relationships and getting STI tested. That's one of the biggest things that we've really been trying to push and advocate for this past year, encouraging students to take advantage of the free and confidential resources that are in the St. Louis area.
Awesome. And one thing that stood out to me about you guys is that you both are college students. So you're running this organization and you're also in college. How old are you
Yeah.
both?
I'm 22. I'm graduating in May.
And I'm 20 and I'm a junior.
Okay, so when she leaves, you're going to be taking this over?
Yes, and Amanda, who is one of the founders, she's coming back, so she'll also jump right back on board.
Okay. Now, how did you two get involved with the organization?
So I spent my summer doing policy and advocacy work for a local health organization. And I knew, throughout my summer, I was thinking about health access at SLU, and there's definitely a disparity there, especially for folks who are sexually active, who want to be sexually active. It's hard to find resources on campus. So I kind of came back to school in August and was really either looking to start my own group or get super involved within a group. And Callie and Amanda had a meeting, I think our first weekend back, and that was it. I was hooked and wanted to get as involved as possible. So I started as VP of Policy and Advocacy, and now I'm president, co-president.
Okay, what about you?
Yeah, so I always knew that I needed something social justice focused to devote my time and energy, and SLU, as a Jesuit university, prides themselves in their social justice mission, but I personally didn't find that there was something that I was very passionate about that was on campus, and I met Callie through an employment opportunity, and when I heard about what she and Amanda were doing, I was immediately drawn in and knew that I had to find out more. And with all of the success that happened last semester, it just seemed very natural to transition into this position.
Okay.
And last semester was focused a lot on creating our operational avenues. So just creating ways to distribute condoms to people. That's one of our main sources of outreach, and also providing reproductive health for the SLU community. So we focused a lot on that last semester because we just had to figure out the best avenues for our campus and our students. So we started by doing MSC deliveries, which is something that Sabrina does.
Yeah, so that's directly to student mailboxes. So we have a Google form that is live every week, and it's on a rolling basis, and students can access the link whenever and request up to 9 condoms, some weeks depending, and we distribute those directly to their mailboxes, and it's confidential. I'm the only one who sees their names, so they don't have to feel, hopefully they don't feel nervous or anxious.
Or judged or anything
Exactly.
like
Right,
that.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
I remember having to buy condoms. Like, I would buy condoms and go to the store just for condoms, and I'd also have to buy a soda. Or I'd
Right,
also have to buy
right, right.
gum, and then like I'd put the gum over the condom and like slide it.
Yeah.
It was just like an embarrassing experience, and it shouldn't be.
No, it
Yeah.
shouldn't be. And like that's, we've learned a lot about how kids on our campus feel about condoms, because not only do we do that departmental mail, but we try to do condom pop-ups too, to hit students who either don't know about us, don't have a mailbox on campus, or just maybe are too embarrassed to fill out the form. So we stand just off campus and we try to hit students heading to and from class, and we just like throw as many condoms at them as possible.
Making it rain.
Right, exactly. And that's a very interesting activity to experience, because you truly see how embarrassed people are to grab condoms. Yeah, so that's a very interesting thing that we've learned.
That is interesting. And why do you think that is? Do you think that that's because of the education that we're given about sex in general?
Yes, definitely. I think if you didn't come from a high school that, wasn't abstinence only, or, wasn't a very sex positive school or health class, it can be kind of off putting to just like see condoms everywhere out there, see us trying to destigmatize sex, and having safer sex. And then, especially at SLU, we don't talk about sex. We kind of talk about consent, but there's no conversation surrounding safer sex. So I think it's a little off-putting for kids who just aren't used to it.
I like that you use safer sex because there is no such thing as safe sex.
Right. Yes.
One of the things that I talk about on this podcast often is safer sex being not only the use of various barriers, but also communication and being able to be open with your partner about your own sex health status. If you are living with the condition, disclosing and being open to the idea of a potential partner rejecting you or accepting you for having your condition. So when you say safer sex, we're talking about protecting yourself from contracting an STI or even potential pregnancy.
Right.
And I think that kind of carries over into the consent realm because we're talking about safety and we're also talking about being in, sexual assault awareness month as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to make sure that I at least got to touch on that as well. But what do you guys find as college students being on campus, a campus that doesn't talk about sex much? Mm-hmm. What are you finding? How are we able to get the message of consent out there?
Yeah, so there's definitely a dichotomy in the way that SLU presents their information, because we see the consequences of sexual assault. We see how administration addresses those instances, but obviously there's a huge disparity in talking about consent, everything that happens before, and then sexual assault. So there's this giant gap where we're not having conversations, we're not talking about what healthy relationships are, what healthy sexual relationships are, and I think that is an injustice to the students on our campus.
Right. And I think you want to, as students, in college, surrounded by only students primarily, you want to be able to rely on your college, your administration, and your peers to create a community of consent. And yeah, I just, echoing Sabrina, it's so hard to create that community if you are not having direct and clear and open and healthy conversations about consent. And something that we try to do is in our Safer Sex kits, which I have one here, super exciting for a podcast, but we do put a little consent thing in there
So
as well.
so what's in here? We've got a couple condoms, right?
Right.
And it
Lube if we
says
have it.
consent is not implied, is not a free pass, requires verbal affirmation, is freely given, is ongoing, can be retracted, and is mutual, and is always necessary.
Yeah.
How did you guys come up with this definition of consent?
So I was looking through various websites, so looking at sexual health organizations, but also looking at what SLU talks about consent, and just making sure that the definition that we're giving is holistic and isn't in any way victim blaming.
Because it's also, it unfortunately is still murky.
Yeah.
It's
There's a huge gray area.
it's always going to be a gray area. Just because you can change your mind, you can, as it says, it can be retracted. So it's and like, yeah. So we wanted to try to create a inclusive definition of consent.
Got it. Now, I read consent is ongoing. That's not where someone says yes. Like if I'm in a relationship and we have sex once, we always have sex. When you say it's ongoing, you mean you have to like continue to get consent?
Yes.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
got it.
Yeah.
Because I read that and I was like, wait a minute. I swear I've read something that said it's not ongoing.
I think I'm ongoing for that is that checkpoints need
Okay.
to be
Got it.
along the way.
Established.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear because I
Yeah.
said it and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think? That's fine. You guys are important and busy.
Sorry,
You're
I'm
fine. What do you guys think we need to do to get more conversations about consent? Like I know that you guys are doing everything you can. Like it's literally on the sex kit that you guys are putting together and distributing to students freely. All the bloopers. You're fine. You're fine. Mickey just spilled her drink. It's okay. Happens all the time.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Actually, that doesn't happen all the time. I said that. But who do we talk to? Like, how do we get consent to be at a point where we at least shrink down the gray areas so that it's more defined? It's more defined and more clear. Because I don't think that there's ever going to be a point where consent is this. Like, if we have a conversation and I say yes to sex, this means we can have sex. And then, like, that's the end of it. Because, as you said, we could be having sex and then consent can be taken away at any given point in time. So, what do we do? Who are we talking to here? Do we need to get more conversations with the men or the women? Or do we need more conversations with, on campus, more from the administration or the students?
So, I think it's I don't think it's a gendered issue. I think it's like, again, a conversational issue. So like, the more people I think are exposed to the fact that you can have this conversation and this conversation is necessary and is important and it is so nuanced that you can retract it at any point and checkpoints should be set up. I think if that discussion is a candid discussion and is a healthy discussion, I think that's like a huge step forward in empowering everyone in, any sort of sexual relationship to be thinking about consent and making sure they're asking and giving and just being safe for themselves.
One of the things that I'm learning through this podcast is when I talk to a lot of different people in non-traditional relationships is that the communication is much more open. People who are in open relationships, polyamorous relationships, they have these kinds of conversations about consent. There's negotiations, what's okay, what's not okay. But that community is not, given that it's non-traditional, it's frowned upon to be a part of that, but they're doing what needs to be done. Like, though we can take a lot from the community, the non-traditional communities, what they're doing with sex, if that makes sense.
Right.
So are you guys struggling to get the messaging? Do you think that there's a barrier between the messaging of non-traditional beliefs about sex in the community where sex ed isn't even really provided?
Wow.
That's a big question. I
Yeah.
know. So let me break it down and ask one by one. So first question is, what would be what are some of the challenges that you face in, I don't want to like throw SLU under the bus here, but at a college that doesn't talk about consent really, or even sexual health, or just chooses to go the abstinence route or the prevention route. How do you guys get the message? How are you fighting to challenge that?
So we are not actually a organization that's affiliated with
Do
the
I need to stop
campus.
this?
No,
Oh,
no, no,
okay.
no. It's just it's this is a really
I don't want to get you guys in trouble.
no, no.
All
It's
right.
kind of like a dicey or not dicey. It's just a detailed subject.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not an organization that's affiliated with SLU, right? So we're not Healthy is Hot for SLU or of SLU. But we are here to serve the SLU community. And so we are not allowed on campus. We're not allowed to distribute on campus because condoms aren't allowed on campus. So that's why, yeah, that's why earlier I said, so for example, like I feel like at state schools there are giant bowls of condoms in
Oh
every res
yes.
hall, right? That is not a thing at SLU. You have to go off campus to get your like sexual health things. So that's like a barrier that we face, but we still want to serve the SLU community, so we
Mm-hmm.
do kind of post up just off campus to hit SLU students with safer sex kits, and we are still students, so we do still have like the rights of students, and if as long as we're being respectful to the university's policies, and we're not like, okay, Healthy is Hot is just going to be on campus now and we are just going to have condoms. Like we still have the rights to act kind of accordingly to the student handbook. I
So
don't know.
like you'd
Yeah.
be able to get your messaging out there to a certain extent. Like there are certain things you can and can't say. There's certain places you can and can't be.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have had the privilege and opportunity to speak with Greek life chapters on campus because they are not funded by the university. They're funded by their national heads.
Mm-hmm.
So we are able to go speak to them, talk about what we're doing. This past semester, we went in and gave presentations on consent and healthy relationships and being an advocate for yourself in a relationship. And we were also able to distribute condoms there, which was amazing because that's a large population and people that are in leadership positions that have influence. And we hope that the information that they learned from us that they are sharing with their friends.
Mm-hmm. So you guys are going into not only sororities but also
Yes.
fraternities.
Yes.
Okay, how is it going into the fraternities? Because you're talking to guys about consent. You're talking to them about condom use. What's that environment like?
So it's we try to go in with the same messaging. I mean, we do go in with the same messaging, because I feel like we need to break the stigma that women are the victims, of sexual assault, or like women, or it's the men's responsibility to provide the condom, right? Like we're not only talking about heterosex, when we talk about healthy sex and healthy relationships. So, and so again, we do try to go in with the same messaging to try to break down that stigma. And everyone is incredibly receptive, right? Like we were talking last semester, we were promoting our STI testing event day, and we got like a great response with every organization that we, as individual students told them, about or promoted our event
Mm-hmm.
to. And this semester, everyone was very excited to have us trying to breach the conversation of consent and at least just bring up the fact that it is, a nuanced idea, and but it is something that we need to talk about.
Definitely,
So
definitely.
it was. I mean, it's been a great partnership to have.
I'm curious, are people asking questions about consent? because with there being such a gray area, I'd hate for it to be one of those things where you guys go in and your definition of consent, given all of the information that's out there, I'm sure it's not 100% consent, consistent,
Right.
but I would hope that people are listening to you guys and hearing what consent is from you, and then asking more questions or furthering their own, or doing more research on their own. Is that what you guys are finding to be the case? Are you getting questions when you speak to these organizations?
I think are we when we were making our presentation, we were concerned that we weren't going to get questions, so we tried to have a lot of, at least a few different times where we ask the audience their, for participation, which is always interesting. So my favorite part of our audience interaction is when we ask what their idea of consent is not.
That's an interesting angle.
Right. So we get a lot of like, okay, consent is not, someone accepting a drink that you bought them. Consent is not what you're wearing. Consent is not if you've been flirting with someone the entire night. That has been my favorite part of speaking with these Greek life organizations and everyone that we've spoken to about consent, because it's just like a totally different way to have the conversation and to think about, consent, and it's an easy way to relate it to your life too, because a lot of us have been in situations where we're like, I guess I'll accept this drink, but like I'm concerned that this means someone else to this other person than it does to me. So it's just a different way to empower students, have the conversation, and to make sure people are thinking about it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And I think that the setting of Greek life chapters is a very safe space. Like, these people have been together, for at least a year, if not more, if they're older. And the bonds and like the sisterhood and the brotherhood that they have between them feels incredibly positive to us as presenters when we're there and we can see that they're engaging in conversation with each other already, because they trust these people. These are their friends. They're always with them, and they're going to help each other out. So that's something that is very reassuring.
One thing that I'm a little concerned, when we spoke, you guys said that the reason that you can speak with Greek life is because they're not funded by SLU itself,
Yes.
but like the athletics department. There's a lot of there are a lot of situations where athletes find themselves in trouble, and I completely believe that it's because there's not very much education on consent. When I played sports, the conversation was wear a condom. It was, no means no. And that was it. Like, so there's this clearly defined area in my mind at this point in time that if she says no, it means no, but anything else is a go, essentially. Because, all right, if I buy you a drink, that could be considered consent. Oh, she took the drink. It's like you're giving me constant yeses throughout the night, and then come the end of the night, I don't have to ask because you've been saying yes the entire night. So we're going on and we're going about our business, and that puts us in a situation now where consent wasn't given for sex, but in my mind, she didn't say no. And I think that that's something that is getting a lot of athletes in trouble, because there is no, are you okay with this? Are we having sex? However you would even have the conversation. Like, this is still new to me in terms of learning how to go about having that conversation, or when it's necessary to have it, or how to even bring it up. So what message, I know you guys can't talk to the athletes, but in the event this becomes a tool, an educational tool for athletic departments, even, what would you want to say?
So just a couple of things before addressing that question fully. I think that the best way to grow in a healthy sexual relationship is being uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable means that it should be talked about. Like, if you can't talk about what you want out of a sexual experience, then you probably shouldn't be having it.
Right.
That's a very good point.
And then in terms of where we would like to see things with the athletic department, I know this past year there was quite a bit of discourse on campus. And the athletics department this past month had a mandatory session for all of the male athletes talking about consent.
Only the male athletes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that leads me to believe that there's a lot of there's more gray area being created because the guys are being told one thing and the women aren't being told anything in this particular case.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and we're obviously not in the athletic department or heads of it or whatever. So we don't know what is like truly happening and truly being talked about. But one thing that I would, back to your kind of example, right? Like you're buying someone drinks throughout the night, you're getting yeses from them, like accepting their drinks or accepting your offer to buy a drink, like, and what if she does say yes, but at that point she's drunk or she's like tipsy, right? Like that's where a huge gray area comes in, and it's not consent, right? But I would say a few tools to use for maybe those who haven't heard us speak before about consent is to ask, your ask for consent doesn't have to be like, I need you to consent for,
Sign this form.
Right. You can be like,
The
it can
love
be
contract.
constant like, hey, is this okay? Hey, do you like this? Hey, are you having fun? And then on the flip side, if, maybe someone's uncomfortable, a few good things to say is like, I don't want to do that, but let's try this. Or like, I don't want to do that. It was really great to see you, meet you, whatever. Like, I hope we can stay in contact, right? Like, there's ways to make that uncomfortable conversation less uncomfortable.
And it's a conversation it's a two-way conversation. It can't be, I would say, I'm not going to be like, yeah, I'm okay with this. Like in sales, for example, and I had this conversation with someone recently, like in sales, you never want to give someone the opportunity to say no. So it's always, you're strongly suggesting with statements, and if there's no reason for the prospect to say yes or no, then it's always going to be a yes because they haven't said no. And I think that the absence of specifically tying this into sex leaves us with whatever it is that's going on in our lives, surrounding our sex life. Like, we're going to use those things that we do in our everyday life to go on into our sex life and have that's going to be the way we address it and have the conversation. So if we're not giving the opportunity for someone to say no, are we even requesting consent? Are we bringing it
Right.
up at all?
Right. Yeah. And that's a really interesting point. Like, if you're not even giving anyone the opportunity to say, if you're not creating a safe space for consent, like, again, as Sabrina said, it should not be happening.
Got it.
And with your sales example, right, I think consent is just, like, it is no until yes, right? It's kind of the opposite of what you're saying.
I like that. Consent is no until yes.
Do you agree?
I absolutely agree.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, our Healthiest Hots pillars are access, unity, education, and visibility. And so last semester we handed out t-shirts, we did stickers, we did buttons this semester, but we did business cards, we did a lot of visibility. We figured out, as I said, we set up our access avenues, right? So this semester we kind of wanted to focus on education and unity. So that's where all of these conversations about consent are coming from, and like presenting into Greek chapters. And we've been posting a lot more on our education blog, and talking to you with unity, like uniting, Midtown and SLU. And so that's kind of how we've morphed as a organization, and we've still upheld our access and visibility pillars.
I think that that's a great opportunity for you guys as well. Like when you get the outside community, because it's not like SLU is just cut off at its borders,
right.
And people aren't engaging with people out off campus, or like there's more gray area, even within the gray area of consent,
Mm-hmm.
like on what you guys can and can't do. So it sucks that you guys have to operate outside of there where there's so much that needs to take place within the community itself, like the student body. So I understand the struggle that you guys are going through. So I'm really hoping to make this as useful as possible, not only for you guys, but for the other SLU students, for the administration, who I'm sure there's someone who knows that this isn't right, and it's rooting for you guys
Yeah.
from the sidelines or from the shadows, wherever they may be. What are some of the challenges, well, other challenges that you may be facing that we haven't discussed, or what can listeners do to get involved? Because a lot of our listeners are, in fact, in St. Louis, and I know that you guys are going to distribute this on your website, but like, how can the people who follow Healthy is Hot STL get more involved or help you guys?
So, we are currently self-funded. So we would love for people to buy merch if they so choose to, We don't have that many expenses, but, envelopes add up. And so that is one way. But also just, we have content, we have videos on our Facebook, on our Instagram, one coming out.
And what are your social media handles?
We are at healthyishot.stl on Instagram, and then Healthy is Hot on Facebook. And we do a lot of educational materials on our Instagram that go to our Facebook. So if, again, one of our unities is, one of our pillars is visibility. So like any shares, comments, likes on anything.
I try to like everything.
Thank you. Just it really helps kind of with our like legitimacy, and it helps, if you like something and your mutual friend sees that you like it, they, might be excited to come check out our page, right? And we just like ultimately want to be a resource. So we do have a lot of access and education resources on both our Instagram, website, and Facebook. And so ultimately we just want to have people see that and read them and just see what we're up to.
Yeah, and because the majority of our followers and support has come from just word of mouth, that's even more important because, we can't fly around campus. So a lot of our support has come from people who have just told their friends, hey, there's this really cool organization. And it's been amazing. The response from the student body is so positive, and it just validates what we're doing so much more and supports our mission.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you guys, like, you're self-funded, so those envelopes, the printer paper, the ink,
Yeah.
Right.
all of that stuff, like, this is all coming out of your pocket. So I appreciate the effort that you guys are putting in, and putting together the little consent condom care packages for people who otherwise may not use it. Like, that's another thing that needs to be looked at here is, okay, if I don't have a condom and I'm in a situation where I need a condom, I'm not going to turn down sex.
Right,
So
right.
this is what you guys are doing is very useful and amazing, and I'm going to do what I can to push the messaging out there so that at least you guys can get more exposure. So I'd love to have you guys in a position where, like, you need more people, you need more condoms to give out.
Right, right.
And when you're able to present that to the founders of the organization, then I think that I feel like I will have done what I can to help.
Yeah.
And we just have to say that we wouldn't be an organization without the support and donations of so many things from amazing places. So our best friends at the Spot.
Yes.
So they are a testing center, and they provide free and confidential testing, and that's where we refer all of the people that ask, just because they have done so much for us and we want to give back to them. And they also provide a ton of condoms whenever we need them, educational things. They're always on top of it. And
they're who we partner with for our STI testing events. And yeah, well, quickly back to one thing that you said, right? If SLU students don't have a condom, and when they're looking to have sex, right? Like, that's a huge concern. We have some quick statistics about SLU students and
drop those knowledge bombs.
I know, and their sexual habits. Sabrina?
yeah, so
And this is SLU based.
Yes.
Okay, let's hear it.
Yes. So last spring, a survey was done with 500 students, and it was a voluntary sample. And out of those 500 students, 71% had been sexually active in the past 6 months. And then looking at condom usage and
71% of students admitted they were
yes,
sexually
right,
active
that
in the
too.
last
Right.
6 months.
And yes, because these are self-reported scores, they might not entirely be accurate. So the next one is percentage of sexually active students having unprotected sex. So 48% of students said that they sometimes have unprotected sex, with 16% always having unprotected sex. So, like you said, because these numbers are self-reported, people could have lied. They could have said, "Oh, I
think they're
don't
higher.
want to
I think
admit."
these numbers are higher, yeah, because it's like we're
Yeah.
already in a very conservative community. And
Yes.
It's like, well, what if someone finds out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose my scholarship, whatever the case may be. But what's most interesting, like, keep in mind what those numbers were, and then go on to the next one you're about to say.
Yes. So the percentage of sexually active students who have been tested for STIs is 53%.
So more than half of the students who have taken this survey have admitted to not ever having been tested for STIs. And you see that more than half of these students have admitted to not even using condoms. So already we see that there's a problem there. And then the fact that we're not talking about it, this just stems and branches off into a completely different issue. One of the issues that resulted in the birth of this podcast. Yay!
Yay.
But did you have more that you wanted to share?
Well, we were just also comparing it to national statistics for STI transmission. So this is from the American Sexual Health Association, and they predict that 1 in 2 sexually active persons will contract an STI by the age of 25. So our student body age
Right.
is the most at-risk population.
Right. And our statistics show that, right? Like, 43% of students said they only sometimes use a condoms. 16% said they never did. And then 49% of those kids have not been tested. So, the likelihood of, kids on our campus being a part of that statistic, every, 1 out of 2, is also why we started our organization. Well, Callie and Amanda did, because they saw that. They saw that those statistics from our campus, and then they were concerned, and so they started Healthy as Hot. And so last semester we had a testing event. We had 38 students walk from SLU, walk or drive, but the spot's close to SLU. Down the street to the spot, they got a free and confidential STI testing. It takes 15 minutes at the spot. It's amazing. And this semester, in kind of conjunction with our Healthy Relationships Month in February, we had the spot bring their mobile unit to campus, and we had about 15 students just walk by, get on the bus, and get tested. So we, through Healthy as Hot, hope to get as many students tested as possible.
Great. Was that it? Anything else you guys want to add to that?
No, follow us on Instagram at healthyashot.stl. Check out our website, and
What's the website?
healthyashot.wixsite.com.
Wixsite.
All right,
Wix
whoa. We
site.
got to spell that one now.
So healthyashot.wixsite.com.
Okay.
We don't have. We use the free
You're getting
Wix.
there. You guys are getting
Yes,
there. You're
yes.
going to get the funding. You're going to get the
Yeah.
domain name. Everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, but we have a lot of educational stuff on our website too. So
Good.
yeah.
So, you guys can sign off, say bye. If there's any other closing remarks you have.
I'm sorry for spilling my LaCroix. I was too excited talking about consent and healthy as hot and healthy relationships. But thank you so much for having us. I am Mickey.
Yes, I'm Sabrina, and thank you, Courtney, for having us once again. We appreciate this so much, and we hope that our mission resonates with your listeners, and also we're really excited to share what you're doing with our supporters also.
I appreciate that, guys. Well, thank you for coming on, and I appreciate you guys again just for spreading the messaging that you are, promoting safer sex and getting conversations going about consent, because especially with everything that's going on right now in the media, this is very important. It's important to be able to have these conversations, as uncomfortable as they are, being able to just talk about it and then go on to actually do something with it. Not just don't just talking about consent. Let's talk about consent. Like, let's actually utilize it and practice it. And you can even practice it in other things. Like, do you want to eat Taco Bell? Like, again, not to play around with it, but it's just that easy in practicing. The more you do something, the better you get at it. This concludes this episode of Something Positive for Positive People. I'm Courtney Brame. I can be found on Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, and Reddit at H on my chest. Please continue to rate, review, subscribe to, and like the podcast and share it with your communities, friends, family, whoever it is that can benefit from this information. It's very useful to people. I get messages on a regular basis from people who somehow stumble across the podcast and say that it has helped them with disclosing, it's helped them with finding testing centers, it's helped them with their relationships, who's helped them just get through their diagnosis of an STI. And this is not only for people who are STI positive, obviously, as you can hear from this episode where we talk more about consent and what's going on college campuses. This is just going to be a useful educational tool, a useful sex educational tool for everyone. Till next time, stay positive.